I'm Dr. Mark Sue, and welcome to the Functional Medicine Reality Podcast. Join me and our community weekly as we bring you unfiltered health from inflammation to longevity. Real stories, real people, real solutions. Experience real-life health changes from both patients and practitioners, and learn how to turn cutting-edge information into real results in your own life so you can feel better, live longer, live healthier, and be confident and clear in your healthcare choices. Let's get real and get results. All right, this is the Functional Medicine Reality Podcast. Once again, I'm Dr. Mark Sue, your co-host. This is Mary Jo Anderson, who everybody should have met by now. If you haven't, shame on you. Check out the previous episodes, but no shame. All right, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about GLP-1s
What's that?
and peptides.
I haven't heard of those.
GLP-1s and peptides. I'm excited about this conversation.
Good living per episode.
Well, that was actually the first question I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Can you tell me what it stands for? GLP-1.
Do you really want it? Well, the P is peptide. We could just start there.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, what does it mean from your observation experiences? What's happening in your world?
It's funny. It's like, I feel like it's a really predominant conversation right now.
I think so.
In my world, especially in women's health. I feel like no matter what I'm looking at, whether it's a newspaper or magazine or Instagram or anything that's like social media, peptides are coming like straight up. Sometimes it's GLP-1s but GLP-1s are peptides. Am I right about that?
Yeah,
right?
they're types of peptide. Yep.
But yeah, the information is out there. It seems accessible to, the public. I've had my own personal experience with it, which I'm excited to share about today. But I just would love to learn more about it, right? Learn more about GLP-1s and see what you think about them.
Well, so maybe we set this down. Like, what are you seeing when you say, yeah, they're all over the place, right? What are like recurring themes of what you're seeing? And for you or people in your world, your life, are there specific sentiments, responses, questions, sort of like whatever?
I think that
reflections.
The two main things that I'm seeing just personally is a lot of advertisements for all of these things, right?
Sure.
For weight loss, which I'm guessing that's like, what they're targeting is weight loss. In women specifically, energy levels with like different peptides that you can mix with GLP-1s. So I'm seeing specifically like a lot of ads that are like on social media or wherever it is, right? Which I think is like becoming extremely saturated. Like you can get them anywhere. It seems like a little bit of a wild west out there, like what you can get and what does what. But yeah, that's like the main thing.
Sure. Are there like collective responses that you feel like from, your friends, family, or just people you know?
I do. I think the conversation is happening a lot right now between specifically people in my family. I have a sibling that has been on GLP-1s for a couple of years now who has been extremely successful with it. So I have a personal relationship with somebody who it's worked really well with. I've had a personal experience using GLP-1s over the past like 2 years on and off, and have had a really great experience with it. And I do feel like in our small little town where we live, I have just recently, more recently than ever, because I do think there's this fine little stigma that is attached to it as well too, which maybe we'll talk about that today. But I'm coming to find out in conversation with a lot of friends on and off in the last few months that there's a lot of people that I know that are utilizing them as well too. So I don't think everybody's so forthcoming with it or proud of it. I think there's a stigma around it. I think a lot of women are using it and maybe not making it public, not that they need to. It's a very personal decision. But yeah, this is actually the first time I've shared with a few people that I've used GLP-1s or semaglutide specifically. But this is the first time I'm kind of like putting out there a little bit more public. I do the social media thing and I've never said it to like my community, my audience that I've utilized it. But I kind of feel like excited right now to like say it out loud.
Hey, Johnny Serena Williams.
Yeah, exactly.
Charles Barkley.
Right.
Whoever else, I can't remember who else.
Yeah,
there, but at least you, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I'm in a lot of conversations with family members and friends that are utilizing it. But then when I get in conversation when I feel comfortable with other people are very curious about it. And I do think that there's so much information out there that is confusing, right? It's confusing. And in the targeted ad stuff becomes, that kind of Wild West, like what's safe, what's not, like what is all this? It's definitely like what feels like foreign and new, right? Like, so I think there's just a lot of questions out there. It's questions that I have and just like the general public, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it feels like there are still a number of people with a lot of different kind of questions, for sure. So maybe we'll start there. What's maybe the first common question you come across people talking about, on a social level, right? Because
Mm.
for me, it's large, heavily predominantly on a professional level.
Mhm.
So I don't know if they're similar or not.
Mhm. So if I get in a conversation with somebody that has never done a GLP-1, doesn't know anything about it, and I feel safe enough or secure enough to like share my experience that I've utilized it.
Yeah.
Typically the first question is, how much weight did you lose? And I'm pretty forthcoming, and I'm like, 35 pounds I've lost.
Yeah.
I'm utilizing it on and off throughout the last 2 years. So they always like are quick to, it's like, how long did it take you to lose that much weight? And how did you even get the prescription?
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not, because I know originally, correct me if I'm wrong, these drugs were utilized for diabetics.
Right.
Right. And now they're more accessible to everybody. Like, I think that's always a question too. Like, how did you get a prescription for?
Yeah.
That's
So
kind of
maybe I'm hearing, I think I'm zooming out. One of the first questions is, does it really work?
right.
Maybe that's kind of like the underlying.
Right.
Does it really work?
Yeah.
And then the thing is like, is it legit?
Right.
Maybe, or something like that, right?
Right.
In terms of the pragmatics. So yeah. So I mean, if we start with those, because I don't know that that resonates for me on a professional level. Then that's like the first
Mhm.
question, right? I mean, well, probably because that is the number one scenario where it comes up for me is someone says I'm still struggling to lose weight, right?
Mhm.
I've done this right, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that, and sure, there's always room for improvement, but it's not moving the needle enough, right? And then so commonly people might somebody might say, hey, so what do you think about GLP-1s, right? They're just asking me straight out, and so they're not saying does it work, but they're inferring that, and I'm saying yeah, I'm a fan, right? And then I go into why. So jumping back to your piece, let's see, I think is it legit or does it work?
Mhm.
Right? Does it work? Have you met anybody where they didn't get? Have you known anybody they didn't get the effect that they wanted or didn't get what they
No.
wanted out of it?
No.
There you go. Right. So for me, I'm kind of the same.
Mm.
Right. I think I have less than 3 people who. Well, let me think. It feels like for weight loss specifically, not
Mhm.
diabetes. It feels like there's less than 3 people who they didn't get enough benefit after, let's say, 2 months,
Mhm.
and they may not have stuck with it.
Mm.
Right. Without detail, I'll leave it at that. Like
Mhm.
it's very, very, very uncommon to rare,
Mhm.
and I'm selective about saying rare, but I'd say it's rare that people don't
Mhm.
get weight loss.
Mhm.
So there's legit. Let's just start with that. As far as is it legit?
Mhm.
Okay, for weight.
Mhm.
And then the other question was, oh, how's it happening?
Or I've always got this just like, how did you, because I'm, I've been overweight for, through my health journey. Like I've gained a lot of weight, and it's been very difficult, especially now that I'm in like these menopause years, like difficult to lose weight. But
Mhm.
I guess like there's, people still think that it's this diabetic drug, right? So they're like, are you diabetic? Like, how did you get the prescription?
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And so like, I kind of dive in a little bit more to it, but I think people are confused that, if they're not diabetic, they can still get the medication.
Yeah, which everyone, I mean, pretty much most everyone knows you can,
Yeah.
right? So I think if the question is like, how did we get here?
Right.
Like, how come we can't get other medications?
Right.
Which is, there probably are avenues. There are avenues to get other medications these days that, didn't used to be the case,
Mm.
but that's for another time. So, yeah, I think if I get that question, which I don't know that I get that question very often at all, but
Mhm.
so as you said, they were originally diabetes medications, and then hey, look, compounding pharmacies do make a lot of compounding pharmacies will talk about making available the older GLP-1
Mhm.
medications, right? Because they go back to the class goes back, I think, to 2005.
Okay.
I mean, it's been a lot of years,
Yeah.
right? But there's like, version or generation one,
Yeah.
generation two, right? So there's always improvements. And, but this is one of those scenarios where I can't remember if we talked about this before, but yeah, in the pharmaceutical world, this happens from time to time, right? Where something is observed. It wasn't the intention, and it
Mhm.
wasn't known, but it was observed after, sometimes even after market release for
Mhm.
whatever other condition. And then, wow, that was unexpected. And then all of a sudden, hey, let's market for that reason.
Mhm.
They have to go back and get FDA approval and all that. But
And that's what happened with this drug, right?
yeah,
And
right,
then I guess this is something we did talk about before, but like there's the different brands, and I think
yeah,
people get confused on what is what. Like when I refer to like the GLP that I'm on, I always say semaglutide, right?
yeah,
And is that Wegovy? Is that Ozempic? Is that, like, and I'm like, well, that's the drug that's in all of them, right? And so I think people are confused. Are they different drugs? Are they the same drug? Do they do the same thing? I always feel like that's
yeah,
always something that's kind of confusing too.
yeah. I
And
mean,
that's just like branding, right? And different companies produce. Yeah.
yeah, and of course they always pick all words and names that we don't really.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember. So Mounjaro and Zepbound are the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then was Ozempic and Wegovy are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Effectively, they're the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so Zepbound is FDA approved just for weight loss, and Mounjaro is FDA approved just for diabetes, but they're the same thing.
Okay.
Ozempic is FDA approved for diabetes, Wegovy for weight loss, and they're the exact same thing.
Okay.
There's a couple other ones, right? We can get people under insurance authorization for sleep apnea
Okay.
and for heart disease. And we won't get technical as to how that's defined, because it's not all just straightforward. It's like, oh, I have sleep apnea. You have to meet certain kind of degrees of sleep apnea.
Yeah.
And commonly you got to have another 1 or 2 criteria, right? We've had some interesting experiences with that whole authorization thing. And there's sort of like, sometimes there's almost like little loopholes or whatnot, you know, but nonetheless, largely if we stick with just diabetes and weight, then that's where you're at. And these are the 2 new ones. Like, I don't hear people talking about any other, you know, older version at all. Okay. They've all bit the dust.
Yeah.
Nobody's using them.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So, and I'm sure, you know, no doubt we're going to have different newer ones coming out. Right. And technically the semaglutide you're referring to, which is the generic name of Ozempic and Wegovy.
Yeah.
And the tirzepatide, which is the generic name of Mounjaro and Zepbound.
Okay.
Technically, they're not the same. They're not just GLP-1s. The semaglutide is strictly a GLP-1.
Okay.
GLP-1 medication.
Yeah.
The tirzepatide is actually effectively 2 mechanisms. So it's actually a GLP-1 plus or GLP-1 and.
Okay.
So that's.
And what?
So it's actually, the way I think about it, the way I describe it to people is, you have like an outlet and a plug. So, and I historically use this analogy with a blood pressure medication, right? There's one class of medications for people who are on it. They're called ACE inhibitors. Okay, lisinopril is really common. Won't get technical. It like covers the plug so that there's less of the plugs going into the receptor, into the outlets.
Okay.
But then there's another medication class that like covers the outlets too, so that you have even less risk of the plug going into the outlet. Okay. So that's what it is in this case, just mechanistically. The GLP-1s is like covering the plug or activate. Now we're getting real technical, because it's actually not plugging, it's actually activating something.
Okay.
So it's the opposite of keeping them from going into each other. It's like one is making the plug more sensitive to finding the outlets.
Okay.
Another one is activating on the outlet side.
Oh my gosh.
So the tirzepatide is actually more, it's been shown over and over by data. It's more effective than semaglutide.
Okay.
But it's more expensive.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, the majority of people I see are on the semaglutide.
Okay.
Like you described, because it's cheaper.
Yeah. But just as effective.
They're no, it's very effective.
Yes.
And then people where they don't get enough benefit with the semaglutide, then people regularly ask me like, can I go to the other one? Like, sure, it's just more expensive.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so I don't know about you, but for me, there's some people who would just ask right off the bat, like, hey, my friend's on, right? It's a lot of it's that kind of thing. Like, my friend's on tirzepatide, works great. Can I just turn on that one? Like, well, you can't. It's more expensive. Like, that's fine. I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not like you have to.
Do you find with your patients that it's more heavier with the females or the males, or is it becoming like, the only reason why I ask
who's asking for them?
Yeah, who's asking for, because I feel like everybody that I know that is taking it or has is female. I don't know very many males that have. I've talked to Bryce about it to see if he would be interested in utilizing them, and he's not ready just yet, but I always feel like it's, you know, if they're on it, maybe they just don't talk about it.
Well, I'm curious, does he ever comment like he knows people, guys?
No.
He doesn't?
No, but we did leave an event the other night, and we hadn't seen some people in a while, so he was like, like, are they on Ozempic? And I was like, yeah. Like, I hate to say that sounds like, I don't know what that sounds like, but I don't like to judge or think that someone's on something, but there is some sort of, just because I've utilized it on and off for 2 years, it's almost like you kind of know if someone is on it. Is that weird to say?
No. I don't think it's weird.
I don't want to judge it and say someone's on it when I really don't know. But
so for me,
I know.
I think both on a professional and more so on a social level.
Yes.
You and I would both say, I think we agree, it's more of a reflection of how many people are on this now.
Right.
Right. Because when we see somebody and we see that they've lost weight, like, it's almost an assumption now, like, oh, they must be on GLP-1.
Right.
Right.
Because it's that effective. in my opinion, in my personal experience, that over 6 months that I was utilizing it, I lost like 30 something pounds. And it was like, I couldn't go anywhere or see anybody without someone saying, you look fantastic. And I felt fantastic. Like, there was all these things that, like, I think it helped with my inflammation and my skin. I felt like it helped with everything. And so I was utilizing it, but I was getting a lot of feedback on it immediately. And I don't know if that reinforced my prejudgment. So now when I see people, I automatically think that. But typically when I do see someone, and specifically in this case, when we had left this social gathering last week, it's like, Bryce, like, they look amazing. I'm like, they did look amazing. And think on Ozempic, and it was like, yeah, they look amazing, because it does, in my personal experience and when I'm seeing, when I do know somebody that's on it, it helps so much with overall health, right? So I know the conversation is about weight, or it seems like it can become just about weight, which, yeah, but weight is such a factor in so many other things. And, I just, yeah, like when I say I feel fantastic and I look fantastic, and I can attribute it to like the GLP-1s, like when I see someone that looks fantastic and, not like they're forthcoming with it, but I usually am like, yeah, they're probably on it, right?
Yeah, I think it's just common, right?
Yeah.
And especially if it happens in a pretty fast amount of time. If you saw them in a
Right.
short interval of time, then it's,
Right.
I mean, for me, it's more of a reflection of historically after 23 years, like, how many people really can effectively lose and sustain that weight loss,
Right.
right? It's a low percentage
Right.
by observation. No judge on that. It's just, it is. It's not easy.
Right.
So when we see it fast, like, I don't know, do you recall anybody in the past, or numbers of people in the past, like in groups, larger numbers of people who did whatever? I mean, Beachbody, keto diet, paleo diet, whatever the case may be, right? What was that one, like grapefruit juice diet or whatever?
Celery.
Joining a gym, and it being like 4 times in a week classes
Right.
or whatever, when they weren't working out before. Like, I don't know. Did you ever see people
No.
like this? Like I didn't,
No.
right? So it's like it's almost unprecedented, effectively, right? When it's when it's a large amount in a short amount of time, and then even if it's not a short amount of time, it's just, again, I think it's just a reflection that a lot of people are on these, and we just it's an easy reflexive suspicion.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny, just in my personal experience too, and I think I shared earlier that I have a sibling that has utilized it for a few years now, or a couple of years, few years now. And I can personally speak so highly about it because it helped me. And I watched a sister of mine who it's saved her life.
Yeah.
Which, I think there's a lot that goes into like losing weight. I think we talked about this before, but when you're eating well and you're exercising and you're doing all the things, and maybe you're in your 40s or 50s or wherever you are at in life, right? Like there's a lot, especially societal stuff, like it's a lot that's working against you in order to, like in order to achieve like a weight goal or just like feeling good or, reducing inflammation or whatever it is. It's extremely hard to do. And I just like personally, and my sister, like I've the way that we've utilized these semaglutide specifically is really saved her life. She's been obese for many, many years.
Yeah.
And she's done all the things and committed to do all the things for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And like the needle would, move here and there a little bit, but never significantly. And it wasn't up until like the last 2 years where it has completely moved significantly. And she's living again.
Yeah.
Versus what we like, it seemed really
right
in a dire state before that,
Yeah, I'm sure it takes a lot of pressure and worry off her, like you seeing results and then being able to more sustainably keep it off, right?
Yeah, I think the conversation and there's just a stigma around it too. There is. Like, but the conversation just needs to be way more open-ended. And of course, people want to like lose weight and feel good. But like, sometimes the conversation is so much bigger than that, right? And like utilizing these drugs, like in a way, it's like I've seen it work firsthand, and it saves lives.
So let's talk about the stigma for a second.
Yes.
Since you mentioned that.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, what's your observation about a or a couple stigmas?
I think there's a stigma, women, I don't want to say against women, but like, I don't know, there's just this stigma about like if you utilize drug, it's like the easy way out.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's the easy way out. And I just think about my own personal experience, like, and I've shared this on prior podcasts. I've been very sick for a number of years, but I don't want to build my whole case, but I've had 3 children. I was very sick for many years. I utilized food to like, like to try to feel good in ways. And when I started feeling well, to climb myself back, I established a raw diet, food is medicine diet for a couple years. And yeah, I lost probably 10 pounds, but I had close to 40 to 50 pounds that I was carrying on from being ill all those years. And so when the conversation was about, where it was becoming much more mainstream and I could have access to it, and my doctor agreed, like, hey, do you want to try this? And I accepted. I said yes. It was like, yeah, at first I didn't want to tell anybody that I was doing it.
Sure.
I'm such an open book.
Yeah.
I don't really care too much about what anybody thinks of me. I can only speak to personal experiences. That's what I try to do. But yeah, there was something about it, like, I didn't want to tell anybody first. Was anybody gonna think that I was taking the easy way out?
Yeah.
You know, when all the cards are laid, it's like, I could, like, are you kidding me? Like, this
Yeah.
is gonna maybe help me.
Sure.
Like, I'm gonna now speak about it more broadly. But now that I speak about it more broadly and openly, there is something there where, like, people don't want to necessarily share. It's a private decision, so I understand that. But I think there are these stigmas about it, like it's like this easy way out or this crutch or they're not doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And I think women and females can, maybe males are like this too, but they can be awful to each other in that essence, make them feel guilty or unworthy or whatever it is. I think that can sometimes be there. And it seems like it is a little bit those feelings and those ways of coexisting with other women. I think it is there. Right. So I don't think women feel totally comfortable for whatever reasons in their personal life that they don't, they don't share it openly, that they're on it.
Yeah.
But
Do you think that's changing?
I think it's changing because I think more people are on it.
Yeah.
And it's obvious, right? I mean, I think
So the stigma you think is lessening a little bit?
lessening for sure, for sure. But at the time, 2 years ago, when I utilized it for the first time for 6 months,
Yeah.
I thought, I was getting a lot of affirmation from people that I saw in public, but I show up on social media too. And I can remember there were messages like, you look great, you look fantastic. And like, I lost 30 pounds and you could see it when I show up and talk on, Instagram stories. And it was just always like a reply, like, thank you so much. You know what I mean? Never like, I can't really respond to everybody with a full explanation. But at some point I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind sharing this really openly and being part of a bigger conversation with my community.
Yeah.
I was getting affirmation at the time. So it felt like, not that I need that affirmation, but I was getting it to the point where it was like, I do want to share about this. But there was a little insecurity in the beginning about, sharing it because I think I probably was attaching myself to like that insecurity, that stigma.
Yeah. I mean, it feels to me like we're more private about things in America as a culture, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just feels like, at least in European countries, for example, I don't know, like even being unclothed, naked, whatever you want to call it, it's less, it seems like less of an issue in Europe than America. Then you throw on top of that the layer about that we're talking about weight, right? And I'm kind of curious if, I mean, this could go down a different rabbit hole, but do you have any thoughts on where that stigma comes from about the easy way out when it comes to weight specifically?
I don't know.
Because for me, where my mind suddenly goes right now is, so a conversation I have with patients in a professional setting recurrently is, it's like, okay, what do you think, Mark? What do you think about GLP-1s? I'm a fan. And then somewhere in the conversation, I just say, look, I rub shoulders with all kinds of people who are non-conventional practitioners, right? Naturopaths, health coaches, chiropractors, et cetera, right? Functional medicine practitioners, whatever. And those are my people. Those are the people I resonate with. But those are the folks who are usually coming at it with like, if there's going to be a voice of like, oh, you shouldn't do GLP-1s, you shouldn't do it. Like that's where it's coming from. And my argument is always, well, if you want to have that debate, you better bring some big guns to the table because that's a hard argument. And I'm not saying it's perfect, not perfect for everybody, it's not right for everybody. But man, the pros and cons, it's such a heavy imbalance that it's a hard argument. So I don't know, me personally, like on social media and otherwise, I know I have either individual conversations with practitioners or on social media, whatever. I still see messaging about like, hey, easily everyone can agree. Don't forget about or don't neglect nutrition and fitness and all that, right? And I think with everyone talking about the whole muscle mass topic, like it's hard to neglect the fitness thing, per se. But there's still a message, if we can all agree, like, being holistic and mindful about nutrition and fitness is important. But I still see some messaging here and there about anti-GLP-1 mindset. So that's something I think still drives a little bit of stigma, but I don't know that I hear it from the sort of non-professional community, like the lay public. I don't know. I mean, not out loud.
Yeah, I do. I think it's becoming less and less, but I do think that maybe it's unspoken, but there's this thing between women that people don't want to admit it for whatever reasons. Again, it's a personal choice, but yeah, I think there's still a stigma there.
Like, do you think that that stigma applies to like Botox?
Not as much anymore.
Right? Like
it's not as much anymore. But
it's not really there.
I mean, I think it is there still, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a huge movement in anti-aging right now and that around that conversation, right? Like,
do you think 5 years ago there would have been stigma like, oh, she must be doing like Botox or fillers or something like that in a negative way?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Even 5 years ago, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know that exact timing, but yeah, I think it's always kind of been there. I think it still lingers, and I think it's still yeah, I still think, and I hate to say this, I think it's women treating women and sidebar comments or talking. And like, it's just like, I think it's a thing, whether it's with any kind of like GLP-1s, Botox, fillers, all that stuff. Like women judge other women. It's a thing.
That's kind of where I'm going at.
It's a thing.
Are we just more judgy in America than other countries? Like,
Yeah.
I haven't lived in other countries long enough to know, but it'd be curious if we had somebody who's lived half their life or a decade of time in European country, an Asian country, whatever. I mean, I grew up in a kind of like Asian household, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like he's pretty judgy. But there's a lot of expectations wise, good and less.
No,
Not to digress. Not to digress. That's a top of my wrist.
Yes. I thought you were going to go down a different rabbit hole, but I like this rabbit hole.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. No,
Yeah,
I do.
Are you judgy?
Yeah.
You know, are we over judgy? And is it specific to things to do with like appearance?
Yes.
Right? Because like when we talk about the weight thing, a lot of it's the appearance.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's all related.
That's why I asked about the aesthetics part. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all related. And I do think that the stigmas that you're talking about, whether it be Botox or fillers or anything that's, you know, anti-aging, I know there's a lot going around with like these facelifts and all these things that women are doing these days that are like, or these laser treatments. There's so many things. GLP-1s just one of them. Like a lot of women don't. Yeah, a lot of women don't like to put that out there because they feel like they're going to be judged. Is that a thing within, you know, underbelly of like the U.S. society?
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah. I mean, I would be sinning if I didn't say that I do think that it is absolutely there.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm one that tries not to feed it. I mean, I'm pretty honest, open book, but I know that there's a lot of women that maybe they carry shame about it. They're going to try a GLP-1. Did they not work hard enough? Like there's a conversation that goes on in each woman's brain where we tell ourselves narratives, whatever it is. Like, and I think other women can sometimes feed it, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, it's definitely a
thing with guys and the men and women, because I feel like I don't know if it's just my antenna's up for it or there's more conversations around it, but I hear about more guys doing Botox.
Yeah.
I mean, like 10 years ago, I don't know if I ever heard it.
Right.
5 years ago, I don't know, but I mean, there's more guys doing that now.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And when they talk about it, I don't know that I read like hesitation to say it.
Right.
I mean, but it's not like it's that common. And then I wonder if they're being a little bit shy saying it. But anyway, so back to the GLP-1 thing for guys. Okay. I definitely know a lot. We definitely have I have a number of guys on GLP-1s, right? And I don't feel it's a bias thing, right? Because it's a professional relationship, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of times with men or women that from my experience, they'll just say, okay, don't judge me, or like, oh, don't get mad at me or whatever. Right. So I know that there's a little sense of projection of that. I don't know that I feel that from the guys on the GLP-1s, but in general, as you know, like, I mean, stereotypically, guys don't share as much with each other, right? But on the flip side, and I'll stop here, I do feel like that whole like shortcut thing, right? Am I taking the easy way out? I feel like that is a bigger deal with the guys than the women, and I think in my perspective is that is a big reason there aren't more guys on GLP-1s. Not to sound like I'm trying to push it, but you know,
yeah.
Even though you were kind of suggesting that maybe the women are a little bit more either, for lack of a better word, judgy or concerned about stigma, projecting stigma, than the guys might be. At the same time, I wonder if there's more of an internal projection and stigma from the guys that it sort of prohibits them from even crossing the line.
Yes.
Compared to the women. I
do think that, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think it has a little bit to do with ego. You know,
I agree.
A lot of men have these egos, and I love my husband very, very much, but he's got a big ego. I think we all, really? Oh yeah. Oh, he sure does. I remind him of his
Teddy
ego.
Bear, Bryce.
I remind him of his ego every single day. In order to keep it in check, which I think is healthy for our marriage if he keeps it in check.
It's good for him.
It is really good for him. It serves him really well. And I think obviously I'm actually a big fan of ego because I think ego is a driver for a lot of people and can do a lot of good. It can bring them success and drives them to doing a lot of good, just keeping it in check, right? And knowing that you have an ego. Ego is not always a bad thing. But I do think that plays into because I have had conversations with Bryce and we have talked about it because he did see me utilize it. And I'd always say, hey, would you ever, he's carrying some extra weight and there's a lot of things that are going on with his health. And I'm like, this might be a good start for him to be introduced to it. And so I've kind of like talked to him a little bit about it. And there's something about it where it's like when I kind of bring it up, he's like, I'm just gonna go to the gym every day.
Right.
And I'm just gonna, I'm gonna do keto again. I'm like, okay, we've been trying that for 10 years, honey, but you keep trying that. And that's great. And I have all the faith in him that if he wants to continue to try that, but he does have challenges with that lifestyle, with work, with family, and all the things in sustaining that, right? And so like a little bit of help from a GLP-1 is something that I think he could really benefit from. And right now I think he's on, I think he's open to it, but I think there's a little ego going on right there that he can do it himself. And again, that's not just with men, that's just specifically with Bryce. But I do think maybe
I think the ego thing is very common. I do. I mean, because it's almost reflexive. As soon for the guys, the almost immediate reflexive conversation response is like about the gym.
Yeah.
Right. It's about the gym.
Go to the gym every day.
Yeah, because I think there's more of there's more of an attachment with the guys as a whole on the working out piece, right? And I think that's where, from my observation over the many years, is that going back to our comments earlier about I've tried, right? I mean, and we can always try more, try harder, but there's, as you just said, a lot of times circumstances play a role, and we can't like ignore. You have to account for the circumstances. It's just the reality of life, right? Doesn't matter which gender you are. Doesn't matter if you're employed, if you're like the house manager and, working from home, if you will. And I don't mean like employed work. I mean, like if you're, whether the male or female or whoever it is, you running the house, the kids, or whatever else going on. It's a lot. America's we run a high busy lifestyle. That goes back to this cultural thing.
Yeah, I do always go back to this feeling of like, it seems like the world is against us sometimes when I'm in the grocery store. It's like, I try to stay, I learned this a long time ago, stay on the exterior of the grocery store. And, so like the food element is such a component to like the fight against, weight gain, health, all the things, right? Like food is an aspect of it. All right, now I got to get to the gym and move my body every single day. It could be as simple as going for a walk, but it always seems like it needs to be more than that in order to be able to sustain a healthy lifestyle, right? Like, and it just seems like the elements of like just our society, like I just feel like it's a tsunami of things that we're fighting against. And like in my personal experience, like utilizing those GLP-1s, like over 2 6-month periods, like they've been extremely, extremely beneficial to me. It's really quieted like the food noise it's helped me reduce my weight, my inflammation. Like, I haven't felt good like this in many, many years. And so it's like, I attribute it to a raw diet that I established, that I dabble in and out of, eating very, very well, exercising to some degree. I'm very, very gentle with my body at this point. But like, the semaglutide, I feel like has been like a little bit of a silver bullet for me.
Yeah.
It's been very, very helpful in my personal health. And again, I've shared this, but like in my sister's health.
Yeah.
It's what I've noticed is saved her life.
Yeah.
Really.
For sure. So questioning there, pivoting a little bit. You've mentioned that has helped you with quote unquote inflammation. I mean, you listen, it was part of a list of, benefits. And then just now you talk again about, I just feel good, right? Beyond the food noise, beyond I feel better about myself, with weight loss. That's pretty much everyone's story, right? Can you, for a second, can I ask, what do you mean by inflammation? It's helped me with inflammation. How do you define that?
That's a tough one.
Okay.
I utilize the word inflammation because I know like it's hard to, I know my body so well now, going through everything that I've gone through the Lyme journey, through weight gain, all of these things, right? And when I feel inflamed, which is just, everything's flaring up inside of me, I can feel it. It's almost like my entire system is turned on. My skin is awful. I'm bloated. It's like, I just feel like it's my entire insides are kind of just inflamed is the perfect word for it.
It's hard to describe.
It's hard to describe, but I know the feeling.
Sure.
I had the inflamed feeling for 8 years when I was sick.
Because you said
I had it every day, and now I don't. I don't have it. I don't have that feeling anymore. You know what I mean? Like I have bouts of inflammation.
Even after you got better with the Lyme topic in particular, and then before starting GLP-1s, you'd say in that interim period versus now having been on GLP-1s for a while, you feel better regulated more regularly?
Way like 100% more regularly.
Okay. And so, because I run this all the time, it's very, very difficult for me. People are always I just feel inflamed, and then I don't want to stop them in conversation, but at some point I usually have to stop and say, okay, so can you define inflamed again? Right. And sometimes it's the same people who they're like, we went over this last time, or like 3 times ago, whatever. Or usually it's not last time, but nonetheless. But I'll ask people to redefine it because the same person will come to realize between that, in that conversation between them and themselves and myself, that how they're defining inflammation in that moment is different than how they defined inflammation like 6 months ago or a year ago. Right. And so I don't know, for me, maybe it's just me being a little, not picky, but being a little too technical or analytical
about symptoms.
Because when, okay, here's the take home. Here's how this is where the rubber meets the road. People will regularly ask me when it comes to GLP-1s, does it make people feel less inflamed? Are they less inflamed? And I'll go, well, what do you mean by that? Right? Because, and then I'll get one person who says kind of like what you said. Well, how about like, I hear people's skin is better. I hear they're like less bloated or whatever. I'm like, I've heard that before. Other people are like, will it make my joint pains go down? I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of more specific, right? Or will it make my irritable bowel syndrome thing go down? Or will it make me, will I have less brain fog? I'm like, okay, well, those are very specific. So that's why I ask you.
Well, I
don't know.
I did not mention those things, but as far as joint pain, because I know joint pain through my Lyme journey.
Yeah.
But like once it was reduced, when I started feeling better and started eating a raw diet and all these things, like, yeah, I felt good for a couple of years, right?
Right. Treating Lyme.
Yes. Before ever testing out a GLP-1.
Yeah.
But as far as like, the after, right? My experience is, I mean, really all those things that you just listed. Like joint pain, inflammation, brain fog. Like if I had to say when I was really sick, I'd have the long list of all those symptoms. When I got better, I think I shared this in the in previous episodes, but if I had 100 symptoms, like that's literally like when I was really, really sick with Lyme, I had 100 symptoms. If I said like post treatment and feeling well and better, could I say that I have like, 5 to 8 symptoms that I lived with that weren't like, maybe some joint
debilitating.
Debilitating things. Post trying GLP-1s, it's like it's hard to even say this, but like it really felt like everything went. So like I don't think I've ever felt better than I did after the first 6 months. Now I dropped 30 plus pounds, and those symptoms of minor inflammation were gone.
Okay.
And I haven't been on a GLP-1 consistently for 6 months.
Yeah.
So like, these little symptoms are coming back, and I know what it is. It's my eating habits. It's summertime. It's all these things. Like I know my body so well, but I'm actually really looking forward to going back on it.
So I'm going to say this in I'm almost like cringy hearing you say that like it went down to 0. Not for you. It's because for me, it's like, I don't know. It's probably, again, my over analytical brain. Okay. Because if somebody asks me like, can I make that? And I'm going to say, well, I've known some people, right? But it's hard to predict. It's not predictable that people are going to necessarily feel all those results at any given person or, an N of 3 or 4 people, whatever. But I think it's all part of, if nothing else, it's a reflection for me that we're still in this learning observational period. Right. I mean, we're still in an observational period, and definitely people do feel better in all these other different ways. But it's just, I guess I don't want to set people up with unexpected high expectations that I can't.
I guess sometimes when I talk about like my scale, it's always, I go back to, for so many years, the question was like, what is your pain on a scale from 1 to 10? That was always a question that was asked over and over again. Yeah. So like my pain scale for the many years that I was sick and going through some really, really tough things health-wise, I was always like, I'm off the charts. Like I'm off the charts. Like my experience with pain and suffering was off the charts. I wanted to die. I was so sick for many years.
Yeah.
And when I go back to that, to like, I live in a place of like such gratitude. I'm like so happy that like I'm alive, and did I make it all the way through? Gosh, I feel like I made it through. But, like this experience with specifically GLP-1s that we're talking about has significantly made me feel even better, right?
Yeah.
Do I feel 100% like the best I could ever feel? I don't think so, but it's a really long way from where I was, Mark.
Yeah.
And I'm just so damn appreciative of it and all the little things along the way that helped me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like feel better. So it's like, I guess, I don't want to like talk it up so much, but like I contribute feeling well, losing weight and reducing inflammation, all those things, and joint pain and all the things to a lot of different things in my life.
Sure.
GLP-1s have been a small part.
And I'm not detracting from that, to be clear. Like it is your.
I don't want to give anybody false hope either.
It is your truth and your experience,
right?
And you're not alone in that,
right?
I couldn't help myself asking you to define inflame, because it's almost a little like ongoing mini tablature polling that I do with patients, because I'm just like, okay, how does that person define inflammation? How's that person, whatever, and
Yeah,
it changes
yeah.
over time.
Well, I do.
But
When you said joint pain, I was like, I can't believe I didn't say joint pain because joint pain
oh,
is something that I've been so familiar with for so many
yeah,
years.
and that's
So,
common too, where you're so used to what you're used to that you don't even think about it
right,
until you're actually asked it.
right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, well, so bottom line, people do off, I just did a dig recently. So like, I'm going to purposely not get into technical rabbit holes here,
Mhm,
but there are some evolving observations about how GLP-1s are effective outside of obviously diabetes.
mhm,
Okay. And, real common, I'll just say a real common question people ask me professionally, or they'll just insinuate, they'll say like, well, is it just like, does it just make you not hungry? So yeah, definitely people have a food noise change and
mhm,
appetite loss, but there's other phenomena going on mechanistically beyond just I just not hungry,
mhm,
right? Because people don't get the same effect here, like with people as a side effect from stimulants for ADD medications or excessive caffeine, whatever. Like it's not like this,
mhm,
right? So hey, look, right? I mean, it's worth just putting out here briefly as a tag on here. These other benefits that we kind of alluded to, or I alluded to earlier. There's evolving awareness now on some level with improvements in reducing cancer risk,
mhm,
right? There's
mhm,
actually now studies for GLP-1s with breast cancer. There's aware, right? Heart disease, et cetera. The list is kind of like growing and growing independent of getting blood sugar under control and losing weight,
mhm,
right? I mean, sometimes it's confounded by those pieces, other times it's independent. So yeah, there's something else, there's other piece going on that we don't fully understand,
mhm,
right? There's another immune system piece. I don't know if we really talked about it before.
mhm,
These mast cells. And that's the big talk for me in the practitioner world right now. Functional medicine practitioners are using GLP-1, specifically tirzepatide,
mhm,
to control mast cells.
mhm,
Okay, and I did a little dig on that recently. Like, okay, what's the real logic behind that, or is this kind of like just community talk, and then it
mhm,
became a thing, and we just all assume it? Okay, I don't
mhm,
know, but there's some mechanism proposal behind it, and there's also some. I think this is a more conjecture, but there's also some suspicion that it has some vagal nerve stimulation,
mhm.
right? So, and we haven't talked about that, but like
No.
it's like the fight or flight brake pedal is the
Mhm,
vagus nerve.
mhm,
We'll just say
mhm,
so people feel calmer
mhm,
and more present and
mhm,
less fight or flight.
mhm,
Hey, who's not going to feel better with that,
mm.
right? And I don't think that's proven yet, but these are things like we don't know what we don't know right now. But I think it's the information is just like it just keeps on growing, and
Mhm.
it's kind of hard to ignore.
Yeah, I agree.
It's hard,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's rather exciting.
but
I don't want to, I just feel like even just a few minutes ago, I got really excited about it because I'm talking about how I was feeling or I am feeling
yeah,
so much better. But I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting to hear people talking about it and learning so much more information and evolving as it goes.
yeah.
So,
I do want to say just for the sake of, it's not really for liability's sake, but
yeah.
since you asked about like at the beginning, we talked about how are people getting this, right?
Yes.
There is this awareness right now that not just GLP-1s, but peptides as a whole, maybe more broadly peptides as a whole than
Hmm.
GLP-1s.
Hmm.
Okay, but there's a lot of sources from all over the place,
Hmm.
right? And so
Hmm.
there's data based. It's not just slandering reputation, okay, material, but there's some data based awareness that some sources of
Hmm.
peptides, especially, but maybe some GLP-1s too. They're not integral in content of what they claim to have,
Hmm.
and then B are produced in a way such that there's toxins and other
Hmm.
crap that you don't want in there,
Hmm.
right? I think on social media, what I come across all the time is endotoxins, and I know
Hmm.
that there is some legitimacy behind that concern.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's I don't know. I don't come across that often. I'm not aware of patients for me anyway
Hmm.
who are. Is it because we can make it available, or is it just I don't know. But I don't come across a lot of people who are sourcing GLP-1s from Timbuktu
Right.
and in weird looking
Right. Right.
plain bottles with some just
Right.
typo sticker or whatever. I
Right.
don't know.
But there is, like I said earlier, that it is the wild, wild west, and
Yes.
there's a lot of information, a lot of ads
Yeah.
flooding everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the more information, the more people talk about it, especially if there's discrepancy in some of these companies. Like people need to know these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's too big of a. I mean,
Yeah.
another longer topic, but yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of legitimacy there for sure. There's no question, but
Mhm.
that's the one thing that bothers me most about the GLP-1s. I should say, for another time, it's more the peptide world
Mhm.
outside of GLP-1s
Mhm.
is it's just become this like almost quickly and overly embraced topic that it's opened the doors to commercialization,
Mhm.
in a way that has maybe, in my opinion, even diluted the functional medicine like reputation on some level, as well as created excessive hype that is based on, I do believe, based on truth and promise, but it's become overhyped, and then it kind of opens the doors to some bad things happening on whatever levels. I don't know, but it's America, so what are we gonna do? I'll expect you to have an answer on that next week.
I'll be thinking about it.
So, and then climate change, I'll expect that 3 months from now. I'll give you 3 months from now.
Sounds good. I'll start thinking about it now. This has been great.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy this conversation a lot because I did share earlier that I do have conversations a lot with family and friends about this, and they're becoming more open conversations, but I've yet to kind of share this conversation with my community. So I'm excited to share it a little bit more and open it up for questions. I know you and I talked, maybe it's a live or doing something where we can bring the community in and share even more so about it, right? Because I think there is a lot of information about it, but like conversations like this, I think are more important than something that someone could just like read, online. But yeah,
So I think you're right. I have no idea. There's no doubt there's people, because there's plenty of people now getting this without like any kind of visit or discussion with any clinician, or the discussion is literally like 2 minutes. Right. And there's no doubt there's people out there who are getting this who have like eating disorders. I'm not aware. I've never seen that happen, but I'm sure it is happening. There are people who are overdosing on their own and things are happening, or whatever the case may be. There's the whole questions about microdosing. I think there's people getting raked over the coals financially with quote unquote microdosing. That's where the money's made. Okay. To me, it's like the mocktails.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm totally into mocktails now, right?
Yeah.
I don't need alcohol. So it's all about mocktails, but I cringe. I'm like, really? I'm paying that for a mocktail? Are you kidding me? I'm just paying for juice, man, guys. Come on, right?
I know.
That's the same thing for me. Like if someone's going to microdosing, I'm like, are you serious? Like we calculated one person in our office who, a colleague here, her patient was paying, I won't go into which brand, company, whatever. We did the calculations. We're like, we're getting you tirzepatide for 5 times less the cost.
Oh my
5 freaking times. I almost got a little nauseated. I was like, it's just not right.
Right.
And some of it was the microdosing, because now they're just like, oh, you're getting like 1/4 the usual dosing, but we're charging you like 5% less than what you would have paid.
But there's not information that patient probably had no idea, right?
There's a lot of calculations involved. I mean, it's a pain in the freaking neck for us as practitioners to go like, okay, this sourcing makes it in this concentration, the other placement makes it in this concentration. They make this amount available. It's really hard to compare apples to apples, much less if you're in the public. The public can't even like keep track of semaglutide versus tirzepatide. Now you're doing all the math. It's a freaking pain in the neck.
I hear you.
There's all kinds of ample opportunity to rake people with coals.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, yeah, that's like a little bit of my pet peeve.
Oh my gosh.
But good stopping point.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, this has been great.
I think both I had multiple rabbit holes.
Yeah, I do think when stemming off of this conversation that there's going to be a lot of more questions. I still have some questions, but I know that if we share this, to the public, which we are, there's going to be more questions. So I don't know. Would you be open to doing a live or follow up of some sort?
Yeah, I think we kind of bantered about that before, toyed with it. So that's more in your discretion.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could do that. I mean, look, part of it is, we've said before, you're aware. And I think at some point, I think we've talked about this, like saying, hey, so going on a limb, we had said, hey, look, through RootSeek, we make this available. Like, I literally don't know I don't know if I've come across anyone making it available cheaper than we do, because we're not trying to make a business out of it, if you will, right? Lilly Direct, in all transparency, Lilly Direct at the highest dose of their Mounjaros that found, at the very highest dose directly through Lilly, that's maybe like $25-$30 cheaper than what we get. Right? But every other dose of semaglutide, tirzepatide, whatever, I don't think I've seen anybody like offer it for less than we have. So I mean, look, it's work on us, but quite frankly, like what takes priority more for me is that people are getting healthier, better, faster at lesser cost, right? So, like for people who might be already on a GLP-1 between semaglutide, tirzepatide, or are thinking about it, like as we've always made an invitation, RootSeek Health is where you can find us for consultations, functional medicine, or for a variety of purposes. But here's this is up the alley too. We've done this with some patients already, and so it's just I don't know. For me, it's like saving money. People is a little bit of a I don't know what it is. Like I think it's my upbringing, because my mom was always about like, you're gonna save 5 cents over there. Like, okay, I'm just built with that, right?
You used to sit and cut coupons.
Yes. Oh yeah.
with my dad on Sunday
Oh yeah.
mornings.
Oh yeah. It's just a saving money.
I think it's great.
But
I think it's great.
yeah, so we could definitely. I think it is fun aside from the cost saving piece and opportunities to help people get better faster. But I love it is a total cultural phenomenon, right? It really is, and there's no turning back. There's no unquestionably there's no turning back. It's just a matter of where the future iterations of this, right? There are now because everyone knows about the muscle mass thing. You know about that, and there are look, there's all kinds of people like you didn't talk about the new version. Have you
No, I have not.
well, I quite honestly, I don't even know where people are getting it right now. Like, I don't think that version is I don't think it's like on the horizon as a pharmaceutical. I'm not sure where people are getting it, but I mean, I know there's online sources, but I'm not sure where it derived from. I don't know if like some compounding pharmacy or pharmacies or somebody made this newer version of a GLP-1, but there's data to support that it has less muscle mass loss being on that GLP-1.
Okay.
Right. And then all kinds of people are asking me, how about that pill? How about that pill? The biggest thing for me is like, well, it's not cheaper than what you're getting for the injections from us. So that people are still taking the lesser cost, even though they'd like to take a pill.
Right.
But like, the point is like things will change.
Right.
We're going to the pill versions. Will they go cheaper? Like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't think it's anywhere near on the horizon soon. I don't know how insurance companies are going to cover that when they're not covering injections right now. I mean, the cost out of pocket is like the same, more or less. Right. I'm not knocking anything. It's just, I don't see where it's coming yet, but things will change.
Yeah. I think it's exciting.
Patients, I've had a few patients many years ago who used to say, 2 or 3 patients who had this phrase like, better living through chemistry, which is a total opposite view of the au natural patients I had who were like, don't talk to me about pharma unless it's like, on my deathbed.
I hear you.
Right? It's interesting.
I hear you. I play it right down the middle because I think there's such a space for both.
Yeah, I agree.
And all together.
I'm with you.
I think that's, from my personal experience, it's like I'm so thankful for all of it.
It's a wide toolbox.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
All right. We'll call it a day. Yes. We might just go on forever on this. Yeah. All right. Thanks again to Mary Jo. And yeah, we'll do it again another time. And we'll see if we line up something as an extension of this one.
That's good. Thank you, Mark.
If you would like to consult a functional medicine practitioner, whether it's for the first time, a second opinion, you're in between practitioners, you feel stuck. In this case, you've tried this, and this, and this, and you're not making it happen. The needle's not moving with weight management. RootSeekHealth.com is where you can find us. We'd be honored and privileged to be part of your health journey in some form or fashion. We just like seeing people get better faster. That's what our greatest compensation is. So RootSeekHealth.com. And yeah, if you have questions, our team is ready. They're happy to get back to you. You can count on that. So we'll check in next time then.